You enter into the dungeon. The door creaks as it closes behind you. And then it locks itself. And so you're here. You're trapped. The only way to move is forward. So your echoes of steps go down the hall. And then you see it. A topic. Roll for initiative.
Ready? Pick it up now.
Oh, fuck. Went down the wrong throat. Oh, man. Ow. Let's that again. Okay, that's a good cup of coffee right there. Okay, fun way to start this off. So, fun fact about me. I've actually been playing Dungeons and Dragons for long enough to where if it was a person, it could legally drink. Which is saying something because I'm only 26. Yeah. Put your minds around that for a sec. Welcome back, guys. My name is Kevin, and I am the solo nerd and dungeon master for today's episode. I hope you guys are ready for this. For those who don't know, but I'm sure you do since you clicked on this is Nerds on Topic, and this week we're covering Dungeons and Dragons, which was surprisingly voted on from a little poll I was hosting for people I know from this podcast meetup I was at, and D&D seemed to have gotten the most votes. So what I do is I go into nerd and pop culture history, I pick a topic, and I do a crap ton of research. I do enough research to start a 10-year Dungeons & Dragons campaign that takes us from level 1 to level 20, and defeating a Tarrasque at the end of it. Hopefully you all will enjoy this as I kind of lead you into things. D&D's been around for a long ass time for those who don't know. It was officially publicated in, 1960, 1969? Yeah, 1969. Yeah. Oh, yeah, 1969. Okay. And to really tell the story of Dungeons and Dragons, we have to start off by telling the story of Gary Gygax. Growing up, Gary Gygax was enamored with pulp fiction novels. More specifically, he really loved the Conan the Barbarian series. Later on, he got heavy into games, especially war games with miniatures and armies replicating wars that had passed. And eventually, this led to him and his friends making their own kind of rules for the miniatures games. Later on, he got married and had 5 kids. Dear Lord, I feel sorry for him. That's way too many fucking kids. I don't even have one, and I feel like it's too much. I can barely take care of myself because I might be an adult, but I feel more like a child who has a drinking license, which is the only reason I'm surviving right now. He got so into gaming that his wife thought he was cheating on her. And she was actually kind of annoyed whenever she went down to the basement just to find him with a group of his friends sitting around a table with a map on it. Actually, not much later, they got a divorce. And it didn't really stop him from doing what he loved. I mean, in 1967, he helped co-found a group called IFW, which stands for the International Federation of War Games. Sorry, not War Games, War Gamers. Then he started the first Gen Con actually in his basement with 20 of his friends, in 1968. 1960. No, it was 1967 that he did that. In 1968, he hosted the first of the Gen Cons, actually, which is the Geneva Convention, or Lake Geneva Gaming Convention, which is still going today and is an extremely popular tabletop and board gaming event. And I really wish I could go, but of course it's in Lake Geneva, so it's going to be really hard for me to get out there without transportation or funding or any form of being reliable in any way, shape, or form. I'm being repetitive now, so I'm just going to continue on with the story. So in 1969, during the second Geneva Gen Con, just going to go with Gen Con because it's easier and because I know it more. During the second Gen Con in 1969, he actually met a very, very influential man on his life, Dave. I know, very, very interesting name. We got Gary and Dave. Eventually, Gary wrote Chainmail, a proto D&D game with Jeff Perrin, who was the owner of a hobby store, and they were heavily influenced by the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, who, if you guys for some reason don't know, is the author of the Lord of the Rings novels and The Hobbit, which I'll get into it later, but it's kind of funny, the little kind of war they had for a sec. The game was very successful, actually, for the publisher. They were going through a Guidon. It's the name of a spear tip or some shit like that. I don't know. But Guidon Games, Dave Arneson, who is the guy he had met, started using the chainmail rules, actually, in his own personal fantasy setting at home. And in 1972, whenever they met up again for Gen Con, Dave ran the game, and Gary Gygax loved it. Okay, I'm just going to start calling him Gygax because Gygax sounds better, because Gary is boring and lame. Blame, if you will. Right after that, Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson started collaborating on what became known as the original Dungeons and Dragons. Just 2 weeks after the collaboration started, Gary had written up a 50-page rule book and started to use it in play with his kids as guinea pigs. It started with his two oldest kids, whose names I can't remember because they're weird names. But it started a setting that anyone who's ever played Dungeons and Dragons will know is called Greyhawk, which is one of the most pure settings in D&D and one of my favorites to use. Eventually, he wrapped more and more players in. Gary and Dave ended up splitting up because of creative differences. And by 1973, Gary's group was over 20 people strong. Him and Rob Kunst became co-dungeon masters, so they had two groups going at the same time, two groups of 12. By this point, Gary had written more for the rule sets and had basically a 3-part book series for publication, but Guidon Games at the time could not publish it. It was just way too expensive. And so he basically said, fuck this, me and this guy over here, Don, are going to start our own company. So him and Don invested $1,000 of olden time money into starting their own publishing company. And they end up calling this publishing company Tactical Studies Rules, or, TSR, as we all will know. Back then, but they still didn't have enough money to publish the game. So, out of pure desperation and need for help, they ended up making a deal with a guy named Brian Bloom for 1/3 partnership, and he ended up helping them with $2,000 of back then money, once again, to publish the first official Dungeons and Dragons edition, which came out in January of 1974. The market just straight up exploded for what this was. They had handmade 1,000 copies of the game, and it sold out in less than a year. Gygax wrote supplement after supplement for the game, and TSR got bigger and bigger. They got their own office. They had an amazing... Not an amazing... I can't even read my own notes. Fuck. They had a magazine, and eventually they actually hired Dave Arneson back, who helped, continue publishing new materials for Dungeons and Dragons First Edition. And in 1977, they released a basic set of D&D for beginners, and that same year they also released a more complex set of rules. You could say that they were advanced, as well as a monster manual. The advanced rules didn't fit very well with the original ones, and so a D&D was born, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. It was a smash hit. But not everything was sunshine and rainbows for TSR. The religious satanic panic hit in the early 80s, causing people to curse the game and link it to witchcraft and murder. For more on that, you can actually look into Monsters and Mazes, which goes into the disappearance and death of a college student connected to the game, which I think it was Tom Hanks, in one of his earliest roles, playing the guy in the movie, and there's also a book on it, and there's a couple of other things all about it. Yeah. So in 10 years, Gygax went from an unemployed game designer to living in a fucking mansion in Beverly Hills with a cartoon based on his hit game coming out soon, which I love the 80s Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. It is so cheesy and fun, and has Game Master, who would always give the kids, who not all of them were actually even D&D classes, clues and hints on how to get back to their homeworld, which, if you don't know anything about the cartoon, it's about a group of kids who got onto a roller coaster and got sucked into the Dungeons and Dragons universe, and literally the first thing they fucking encounter is Tiamat, the the chaotic evil goddess of chromatic dragons. And what was it? Not Venger. Was it Venger? I think his name was. I don't 100% remember, but he was basically the Lich, which, oh man, it was great. I don't think it lasted too long. I think it was like 1 or 2 seasons maybe, but the teens were all. There was a barbarian kid with a pet unicorn. Uni! There was acrobat, the thief, the wizard, the cavalier, and the ranger, who only like the ranger and the cavalier were the leader and the lance, which you would think that the cavalier would be the leader, but it was actually the ranger who was the leader. He was probably the only other competent one, other than the thief or rogue or whatever she was meant to be, who had, and each of them had their own magical weapons. Anyways, I'm going on way too long about the cartoon. If you guys want, I can always go and do an entire episode on the cartoon if you're interested in that. Send a message or post in one of the topics on our Facebook page. So, much like the story of Steve Jobs and Apple, Gygax was eventually cast out of TSR, his company that he helped start. And it also kind of signaled the start of the end of the whole gaming company, as it was having trouble keeping afloat after that. And that's when everyone's favorite gaming corporation came flying in like the Eagles to assist the Fellowship, Wizards of the Coast. You know, a company known for creating a little known card game called Magic the Gathering, which is a story on its own that if you guys want to know about, hit up the Facebook page, or our Twitter or Instagram, and send a message. Tell us that you want to. Tell me you want to listen to something about that. Anyways, in 1997, Wizards of the Coast saved Dungeons and Dragons, and in 1999 or 2000, they actually ended up designing a new edition, basically, putting a big old splash of fresh miniature paint on the whole thing, and released third edition, which ended up getting dozens of little add-ons to it in 3 years, because 3 years later we got 3.5, which just kind of like fleshed out the rules a little bit more and streamlined them a little bit, and 3.5 was a hit. It was out for 5 years, and it had hundreds of modules and added books to it. It had the friggin' erotica, the Dungeons and Dragons erotica, which I did not expect them to ever make something like that. It is weird read if you ever go into it. Anyways, that was also all before Wizards of the Coast changed everything and actually divided its fan base and created its own biggest competitor, because they ended up making something called 4th edition in 2008, and Paizo actually picked up a game from people who were part of the development team for 3rd and 3.5 called Pathfinder, which, hey guys, guess what? That's another topic that you could also request, Pathfinder, because it's got plenty of history to it. Anyways, continuing on, 4th edition was actually made to try to attract people who basically were raised on video games. Like, it simplified everything down to the barest of bare. There's like paths that each class could take that were very streamlined, and people had daily and hourly and encounter abilities and at-will abilities, all basically put out on little cards that you could easily pick, like, oh, hey, here's my character, like, everyone has magic, so yeah, everyone's equal, you don't really got to put that much imagination into making your character. And it was really just like panned by critics. It didn't really keep people in the game, and it isolated a lot of the people who were already core players. Something else sad that came out in 2008, the original guy, Gary Gygax, died. He actually died from abdominal aneurysm. And he was a really nice guy. Like, up until his final days, he was hosting games for the local neighborhood kids. He was donating money to charities and churches and all this other stuff, trying to, just be a productive member of society. He was a really nice guy, and it was really sad, like, hearing that he had passed away. 4 years, not 4 years after that, but I think it was like not 6 years. 4 years ago. 4 years ago from today, 2018, a new version of D&D, 5th edition, 5e, some people could just call it, actually got published. And it was kind of a return to the norm, with a lot more individual creativity for your characters, and, more interesting, streamlined rules that allow it so that, there's not as much weird math that people would have to go into, and it made advantages and disadvantages easier to understand, and actually kind of brought on another Dungeons and Dragons renaissance. Then again, it's probably not the only thing, seeing as Yeah, it was also Dungeons and Dragons. The original versions of Dungeons and Dragons were actually used as a plot point for a little-known Netflix show called Stranger Things. Which, if you guys listen to the news episode this week, you'll actually know that is getting its third season, which I'm excited for. Anyways, I'm gonna keep going on. That actually brings us to today. There's not much else to say. I mean, Dungeons & Dragons is still going strong. There's new supplements getting put out like every couple of months, like at least 3 times a year, maybe 4 times a year. It's 4 years in, so there's plenty of new material. And I'm actually currently running a couple of different games. If you guys are interested, I might want to try to do an actual play podcast. So if you guys want to hear something like that, you can also hit me up on the Instagram and Twitter. Other than that, there's not really much else to say about this. I mean, there's plenty of other things to say about this because Dungeons and Dragons has been around since 1969, pretty much. Even though it wasn't officially published till 1973, whatever. We all know. I already talked about this. Anyways, I'm just rambling now, so I'm just going to end it right here. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Nerds Topic. You can follow it on Instagram at Nerds On Topic. You can follow me and look at the artwork I post on Instagram at Not Coffee. That's coffee with a K. You can follow me on Twitter. See that I don't really post that often because I'm not an interesting person, because I'm boring as fuck. You can follow me at KW Comics. If you like our intro song, you can follow our amazing artist who does that, Swa, on all social media at Swa Music. And remember, everybody, this is Nerds on Topic. We are not the podcast you're looking for. Bye-bye.